Hi, it's Etharal here, and today we're starting off a new Crusader Kings 2 Warhammer Let's Plays, where today we are actually going to be playing as somebody in the Empire, going to choose to go for the actual Middenheim rather than Reichland, obviously the main traditional sort of emperors of the Empire, obviously with Altdorf and everything like that. May expand into them at a later date, but for the minute we're just going to try and focus on basically raising ourselves up to being one of sort of the elector count sort of level of guys in the actual Empire itself, basically. So we have taken over as Peter Scinster, and he is a Duke level in Middenheim from the Duchy of Tauben. So here we are. The reason why I picked this guy is he is a Duke. There is a good few counts and that surrounding him to be able to expand to initially, and hopefully be able to pick up some land there to get a decent bit of power in Middenheim with any luck. Obviously Middenheim, Reichsland and all of the other ones, obviously they are all separate in this mod at the minute, although they will probably likely all join together to form the Empire at some point, but we'll see how that does go at a later date. So for the moment we're just gonna get everything set up and everything as Peter's trying to sort of work out exactly what he's doing. He is quite been ruling for quite a while. He's actually in his 50s, so he's doesn't have long left, and with no family and everything, it's going to be a pretty quick scrabble to have to be able to build up a family that will hopefully be able to stand the figures of the Warhammer world. So first of all, he does marry into the Countess of Cothilda, the Countess Cothilda of Eisnuttel, which is this obviously bit just to the north of us. She is a lot younger than him, and being in her sort of 20s and everything, I think it's safe to say that he's probably, not marrying so much for love with this one. This is because of the fact that as she's unmarried with no children and everything, she is probably a good way to be able to hopefully expand our land without actually having to declare war, as it's also as well a county that is only sort of 2 places wide. That's something that hopefully should be able to pick up with some relative ease. Obviously, as we are obviously doing this, getting our council all set up and everything, though, that Peter does discover obviously about the war going on to the south, as the Vampire Council Sylvania have banded under a new leader who has decided to declare war on the Empire, as often he does, to try and expand their kingdom and wipe out the humans. Obviously, this is something that we're not going to allow ourselves. We are going to try and be a little bit more interactive in the actual Wars of the Empire, rather than obviously with our old Ulthuan playthrough as House Ellereth, who kind of just did their own thing and ignored what the High Elves were doing. This one going to try and stay a little bit more involved. Obviously, we are going to also obviously focus on expanding into the Middenheim still, and hopefully be able to expand our lands and become something of a powerhouse in the Empire. Obviously, with this one, Peter is aware that it's not going to be himself that's going to do this. It is very much going to be a case that it is going to be one of his descendants that are going to be the ones who are going to be actually able to expand and truly become the leaders. But hopefully, who knows, hopefully House Scinster will be able to actually get somewhere. So we'll see how it obviously goes. We've got a rough goal that we want to be achieving, and this one is going to be less focused obviously on one individual person, more close to the traditional sense of the Crusader Kings 2 games. Of it is more about the family mod and the dynasty more than anything. So we're just going to sort of obviously raise up this army and be able to move them down to defend the attack from the Vampire Counts. We've got over sort of 2,500 guys that we can obviously lend to this fight. So not a massive amount, but that's something that we are going to deal with. One thing I did forget to do is that I didn't realise that Peter here was actually a commander for Middenheim, and so we've decided to resign our post. Reason being is that he wants to actually survive to the point of having children, and being a commander would not allow him to do that. And so he has basically ran away from a battle that we were fighting in, a personal combat. I know it's not brilliant, but you know what, that's something that I can actually live with, given the fact of how squishy humans are, and that we don't have any descendants yet to be able to continue on our family if that fight was not to go in our favour. So even though Peter has probably been mocked at the end of the battle and everything like that for it, I think he still probably chose the better option. And so there you see, we have just managed to gain a claim. However, I had actually moved our guy into the lands that our wife owns, so there's probably not really much need to have that claim. So we'll obviously just use that to get some more piety, I believe it is, if you choose not to use it. And our army then attacks these guys. However, they pretty much crush our army. We lose 2,000 guys, and they only lose well, actually about a tenth of that, which is not how that really should have gone. But after that, we've managed to be able to help out in the sense that we removed their holdings that they had claimed of the lands, and so we think that we've done enough here. Really, obviously our vassals are not happy that we're obviously taking their armies away from them and everything, so we're going to get back, return those armies back, and then we will basically do what, just ignore that fight. We contributed enough to be able to say that yes, we were part of it, and so I think that is safe to say that we're happy with that, basically. So we're just going to sort of obviously continue on. You can see that wall there, now that they have been forced, Sylvania has been forced back into their lands. Peter does begin to hear word that obviously they are, steadily being pushed back. That war is pretty much just going to be now, it is a steady sort of slow slog for the Empire to be able to drive back the vampire counts. And so here we're just going to, he's looking at obviously improving his lands, does want to look at improving obviously the money coming in. Don't have a lot of money, we're not massively wealthy count, so if we look at possibly, getting to the point where we can start to improve the castle cities and things like that, hopefully we should be able to get a little bit of money coming in, and then from that we'll obviously be able to sort out and be able to raise obviously larger armies and basically be able to improve our lands a lot more, which obviously is a big benefit in the long run. Plus, if we can obviously get a good little bit of money, as anybody who has obviously played the base game or any game where you've got humans and things where you can obviously die, having the ability to send gifts to your vassals when you first take over the throne is definitely something that is a very, very, very useful ability to be able to do. So, something that we're going to get ready for that one, just to be safe, obviously, so that hopefully got enough money in so that if we were to die and, a hopeful future son was to take over, then, his actual Peter's son will have somebody that he will be able to, some money to be able to bribe people to keep them loyal to us until he can get into a position to be able to actually establish himself. And speaking of the devil there, that it should be guessed that Cothilda is actually pregnant, so fingers crossed she will actually be able to provide us with a son, which would obviously pretty much secure our rule and our ascension onto the actual county of Eisennutten. And so hopefully, I'm probably as well butchering those names and everything with them obviously being German influenced, not something that I can say that I'm particularly fluent in any shape or form. So will also as well just mention, if you do have any things that you'd like to see me do in this game, please do be sure to let me know. Send comment below, subscribe, all that sort of stuff, and obviously always happy to listen to any suggestions that anybody may have. So here we can just see how everything's sort of ticking over, obviously just checking to make sure that our wife is still okay. Obviously the ideal situation for this that Peter is hoping for is that she will provide him with a son straight away. He is very well aware that he is a good... Oh, never mind there is his first daughter instead. Now, that's not too bad. That means that we do have an heir of Marion Scinster, who is going to take over the Duchy of our lands and then the county of her mother's, which is not a massive problem. However, as I was just about to mention there, that obviously we are a good 30 years older than our actual wife, so obviously there could be a slight potential problem that if, say, Peter is aware that if he was to die, then she would more than likely remarry and have time to still have children, which if she was to have a child before she died of a son, then that son from her second marriage would actually obviously take over the take over as heir of Eisenhütten, which then would obviously have basically meant that all of this was for naught. So that is something, that last thing that we want to do without a doubt, and so we will hopefully though be able to keep alive for as long as possible, so that eventually she will be able to provide us with an actual son, and therefore we will be in a lot better position to be actually able to have a bit more freedom and everything, knowing that no matter what, so long as he obviously survives to adulthood, that we will actually be able to claim this land peacefully, which is something that obviously, as you've obviously seen in my last playthrough, is not something that I've done in a long while. Was something that I have enjoyed doing a lot in the base game and everything, with managing to actually unify all of Britain through very careful and skillful marriages, and that's something that I'm going to try and do here by uniting Middenheim that way. How well it'll work, don't know, but we will see. And there you go, thing popped up that actually turns out, even though obviously, as I mentioned earlier, this was very much a advantageous marriage for myself and was more of a political thing, it is actually a case that Peter and Cothilda have actually basically fell in love, and so they are actually quite happy and everything. So that is actually a really good sort of situation to be in. Our wife is happy with us, which just makes everything obviously a lot easier, as anybody sort of obviously knows, and that is going to be a good situation for us to find ourselves in, and hopefully we will be able to keep this marriage going for as long as possible. Obviously not sure how that'll go, but we'll see obviously. And so there we go, we have another a child on the way. Not sure how this is going to go. Who knows? Might actually manage to be a son this time. In theory, it's a 50-50 chance. So, we should have we've got a 50-50 chance. Obviously, the last one doesn't affect it, but obviously the chance of getting multiple daughters in the sort of row without actually ever getting a son is obviously slightly decreased chances and things like that of that happening. So hopefully we might be able to get a son from this one. Obviously, daughters are still useful, very good obviously for marriage alliances, although I think that if they do manage to get to an age where they can marry before I am actually and there we go, we have had another daughter, of course. So say hello to Emma Scinster. And so again, exact same situation as we are still in. But yeah, they are obviously useful for making alliances, which is something that I am obviously going to do with at the very least one of them. However, I will also probably consider looking one matrimonially, obviously to a actual probably just a quarter in my lands or something like that, so that I can basically keep these actually under my command and things like that. Although how well that will go will remain to be seen. We'll obviously deal with that when we get to it, and then at least that way we're getting another branch of the family, which is hopefully going to allow us to expand and everything like that, which would be an ideal situation. Obviously that way we can keep sort of another branch of the family close to us without maybe any lands and things like that, but that are still expanding the family dynasty and aren't just sort of a dead end and things like that, which is, hopefully that'll work. I mean, how well it will go, we'll obviously have to take some time to see. Having to get back into sort of the swing of things of dealing with humans and sort of limited lifespans and things like that. It's something that is obviously very different from the last game that I've been playing, and also as well, another obviously big difference is that we are right in the centre of the old world, so hopefully we're going to be able to expand. One thing I am slightly worried about is obviously a unified chaos from the north. If that was ever to happen, then that could be quite an interesting situation for me to have to find myself in. But we'll keep expanding our lands, and hopefully if that was to come to it, then that's something we'll deal with. Although I think one thing I will be targeting first is the vampire counts, hopefully looking at wiping them out, as they are the most immediate threat to the Empire's security at this stage. So if I am going to first look at expanding outwards, then I think that is going to be Peter and any descendants' goal at first, if we can get to a point where we are able to take Middenheim ourselves, of course. So there is that goal that we still have to get out of the way first. So do be sure though to let me know what you think of those goals of first expanding into Middenheim, then the vampire counts, and then possibly moving into the rest of the Empire when and as we can. We'll obviously take that as we go. If you do have any other suggestions of things you'd like to see though, please do be sure to let me know. It is always nice to see interaction and some advice on these games and everything, as I tend to play these, as you can probably tell now, 2-3 games into these, that I like to actually do things where I start off sort of small and then expand, rather than starting off as like the big kings and things like that. I just think it makes it a little bit more interesting, gives it a little bit more longevity and things like that, as well as obviously if once you do get sort of large lands and everything like that, if you are successful, you can just kind of start to steamroll through everything, which is where things start to sort of drop off in their entertainment a little bit. So I like to add this little bit in at the beginning and know that this is a family that I've actually raised up myself. And so there we go. So hopefully a third time's the charm that Cathilda is now pregnant, and it's, I imagine, very unlikely that we're going to have another daughter in a row. I mean, the chances of that are obviously quite slim, I imagine, by this point, but we will sort of see how that one does actually go. And so we will just try and have a look here, see how everything is going there in the Middenheim. We're actually at peace, so we have been able to expand our lands quite a well, not expand our lands, but improve our lands a little bit and set ourselves up for expanding later. I'm going to move, though, my count guy here. Obviously I do have a claim on side wall, however I am going to move into Mittenberg, and there we go. I actually do now have a son, so I now have a Peter, and we will obviously, my wife is actually incapable, so of ruling, as she had a very troubled pregnancy. Not ideal, but you know, we'll see how that goes, and hopefully, I mean, on the advantage that obviously if that one does last, it does then mean that she can't have any more children. So if my son does manage to get to an adulthood, then that is the rule secured. But we'll see how that goes. Obviously at some point later she may well recover from it, and if she does, then it's not the end of the world. We do still have, and there we go, speak of the devil, that we do still have Peter the Second, who will be able to take over from us, so our rule is now secure. Our vassals will likely be a lot happier as we now have a male heir to continue on the line, and so not getting like minuses from actually having a daughter as our heir. And we're in a pretty, you know, strong position here, so we're going to look at sort of expanding out into Mittenberg, which obviously isn't in the same county as Issennutten, but you know, it is going to still allow us to expand our lands, which is never ever a bad thing. And so this is, I hope, something that you've enjoyed today in this one. I will obviously be looking at continuing this on over the next couple of weeks and months and everything like that, so please do be sure to subscribe. I'll be putting these videos out regularly, and obviously want to make sure that you're still getting to enjoy them and everything like that there, though. So thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Etharal here at EGN, and I hope you enjoyed the video.